So we have to talk about a tragedy that took place this week on board a Royal Caribbean ship known as Spectrum of the Seas. A woman jumped off of the cruise ship and unfortunately her body was never found and she at this point has been declared deceased. What's interesting about this story is that her family tried to deny that this had even happened to begin with, at least until they saw the video footage. This is important to talk about to me because I do believe that regardless of how many times we hear about these stories from news outlets or watching it from behind the screen, this story in particular does highlight the fact that we are all humans and these are lives that we are talking about that are unfortunately being affected in a very emotional and tragic way. From July 30th through July 31st, Royal Caribbean Spectrum of the Seas was conducting a 4-night sailing out of Singapore over to Malaysia, back over to Singapore through the Singapore Straits. However, as the ship was heading back to conclude their cruise over in Singapore, in the early evening hours, we had a 64-year-old woman known as Rahita Sahani. I apologize if I butchered her name, but her husband woke up in the middle of the night to come to find out that she was missing. And then they alerted the crew, and the crew at around 7:50 a.m. would alert local authorities, stating that Rahita had jumped overboard. The timing of this situation did potentially create a big and confusing problem, as you had Spectrum of the Seas due back over in Singapore to conclude the cruise that unfortunately Rita as well as her husband were sailing on. They now had to contact local authorities, I believe one of which was the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center of Singapore, which is equivalent to our Coast Guard. And well, the ship, because it was due back in port, could not head out to also go aid in the search either. And well, you had the husband, of course, he's obviously distraught, wondering where the whereabouts of his wife is, and he's not exactly getting any information, while you have, of course, Royal Caribbean as well as local authorities conducting a search and rescue as well as an investigation to see what exactly happened. While the search and rescue as well as the investigation was underway, Royal Caribbean on July 31st was experiencing something known as turnaround day. This is when there is embarkation day and disembarkation day. You have a new batch of passengers getting ready to load on, so that of course means you have to get all the other passengers that were just on that 4-day sailing off. This is also a 12-day sailing, and you had Rita's husband. He didn't want to disembark the ship because he had no idea where his wife was. He didn't know what happened. He then received word that his wife allegedly at that time jumped off of the cruise ship. His son also got involved and he said that he didn't believe it. He considered Royal Caribbean to be hiding something and basically just kind of sweeping all this under the rug, which obviously when it came to this situation alone and then social media get involved, a lot of people came up with all these rumors and theories and whatnot as to what could have happened. That was of course until Royal Caribbean actually showed the footage to the Sun, in which he did make a post all over social media to explain the situation, say that he had saw the footage and it was confirmed that his mom unfortunately did go overboard. And at that time, after a 24 to 48 hour search by the local authorities over in the area, they did confirm themselves that she at that point in time was to be declared deceased. Now, despite search and rescue efforts being called off by local authorities, other vessels have been advised to be looking out for a cruise ship passenger that did indeed go overboard. So there is a chance that they could find her. There's a chance they could not find her. But I will say in general, of course, my condolences do go out to the friends, family, and loved ones of Rahita Sahani. Like I said, I do apologize again if I'm butchering the name, but this is a very sad situation. I do believe this does highlight the emotions. As you can see, the husband and the son were all in denial that all this had happened until they saw the footage. I would imagine when it comes to these types of situations, showing family footage of a loved one jumping off of a cruise ship intentionally is probably something that is not easy to do by Royal Caribbean. I'm sure there is a process to do so. They probably have to call higher ups and then get in contact with police, local authorities, whoever's going to be doing the initial investigations to get confirmation that they can actually show the family the footage. Probably a process, and well, it took about 2 days or 48 hours for all this to kind of be rectified and figure out exactly the outcome of all this. Obviously, we don't know all the details, really any, as to why Rita would decide to just jump overboard on the last day of a cruise. I just talked about a situation similar to this last week where a young man, 30 years old, decided to also jump overboard on a Carnival ship. Very tragic and emotional situation. I also find it honestly a little disturbing that this is twice in about a week and some change that we not only have people that may have accidentally fallen off of a cruise ship, but you're talking about two people that intentionally went out of their way to jump off of a cruise ship into the water. It's extremely sad, and I will always say you never know what somebody is going through. There is a lot of stresses in life, and there are just some things that people simply cannot handle. Is there anything that the cruise lines can do about it? I would say maybe they could put plexiglass, 10-foot tall plexiglass on the cruise ship. However, it would also affect the experience of the people that are just trying to enjoy a typical cruise experience and not feel like it's being altered in any kind of way, especially what they've known from the beginning. but it's a hard problem to kind of combat. I would say that a lot of this does seem to happen usually in US waters. Over here in Singapore, I mean, it is very tragic, but I would say over the years, I haven't really heard anything happening over in Singapore as far as somebody going overboard. However, it happens occasionally. I always say typically globally, you're talking about anywhere between 25, 26 times per year. I'm hoping that one day that number does go down, but I guess we'll see. I always just say, guys, just check on your loved ones, make sure that you're okay. If you're in a rocky relationship and an emotional relationship at that, whether it be girlfriend, boyfriend, lover, family, a cruise may not be the best option. But of course, let me know your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Hit that like button on your way out. And as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.